So, guys, questions people have asked me is why is it that this piece of land has not yet been used for the construction of the Hilton Hotel? Where we are on the south side of the seawall. So on that side, that's the seawall, right? The seawall is on the south, is north of this location. Behind all of this, beyond all of this, these piles of rubble, of earth, the seawall is on that side. And this is the land that is going to be used to build the Hilton Hotel. Like I said, government seems to be working on widening Carifesta Avenue, which I suppose is a prerequisite, because if they're going to build a world class, if they're going to build a world class hotel resort in this location, then widening Carifesta Avenue would be one of the prerequisites. So this is what they're doing. They've already completed the drains on the north side of Carifesta Avenue, and they've added a lane, one more lane to Carifesta Avenue, which is in fact just a two-lane dual carriageway. Now it's going to become a four-lane dual carriageway. And this is what Carifesta Avenue looks like at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, or is it Thursday? Thursday afternoon. This is the construction that's going on the south side of Carifesta Avenue, and of course beyond is a national park. People are exercising and relaxing in the park on a Thursday afternoon. Typical for Georgetown. So the question is, why hasn't this hotel, the construction of this hotel, started yet? And the issue is that the government of Guyana does not have the right to dispose of this land. Right, so this is Assets Group. These are the posters on the outside of the fence. So this is basically the billboard for the construction of this hotel. All right, this is in fact what it will look like. All right, there are a couple of pools, two pools. There is a multi-story high-rise hotel, and this picture shows you what it should look like at completion. But since the last time we were here, not very much progress has taken place with the construction, the start of construction of this hotel. And the reason is because the mayor of Georgetown is challenging the ownership of this land. In other words, the mayor is contending that the government does not really have the right to dispose of this land, to sell it to the Assets Group. So this is, I guess this is the end of the property. That's looking east. And it takes up, like I said, two pieces of property. The first one is owned by belonged to the Guyana National Service, and the second piece of property belonged to St. Stanislaus College. They had their recreational ground, their recreational park here. Now the government has given St. Stanislaus College another plot of land on Homestretch Avenue, and that land, of course, is going to be eventually turned into their that the St. Stanislaus ground will be moved to Homestretch Avenue. I think I've covered that in a previous video. You check the archives, you'll see that I've shown that in a previous video. But the mayor is challenging the right of the government, so this matter is in court. The reason why the construction has not started is because this matter has not yet been resolved. The mayor of Georgetown is challenging in court the government's right to dispose of this land by giving it to the assets group. Now, if you recall, I actually made a suggestion that's looking east along Carifest Avenue in the direction from which we've come. What I said in a previous video about a year or two ago is that Guyana, especially in this part of the country, has extensive mud flats on the other side of the seawall. So that's the seawall. And beyond the seawall, especially at low tide, you can see land for at least a mile out. That land could be reclaimed. In other words, the government could reclaim that land to build this hotel and all of this piles and piles of earth, right? Similar piles to this, piles of earth that they're moving to build up this land because it's all low-lying land. They could have used that soil to reclaim the land on the other side of the seawall, and that would become the location for this Hilton Hotel. This is the back end of the national park, right? The western end, and that's the children's park. They've actually built a new children's park. We've seen that in previous video. I'm not going to visit it again in this video. And of course, next door, that's the school, Marion Academy. I think a teacher was arrested recently for assaulting a child at the school. And we are here opposite the Ministry of Education ground. So this playground is where the Ministry of Education holds their sports for schools, inter-school athletic sports. Yeah, so the point I'm making, guys, is that there is another solution. Right, this is the Ministry of Education ground. There's some kids playing soccer, I believe. Kids playing soccer in the Ministry of Education ground. It's a Thursday afternoon, evening, it's about 6 o'clock. Yes, the point I'm making is that reclaiming land from the Atlantic Ocean would come without any dispute. The government will not have any problems with the mayor over the ownership of land reclaimed from the sea. And this is quite common, it's happening all over the world. It's also one of the reasons reclaiming the land is one of the things you can do to shore up your sea defenses in the face of sea level rise and global climate change. So there are many reasons, there are several reasons why reclaiming the land from the Atlantic Ocean, the mud flats here in Georgetown and along the coast is a good idea. One of which is that that land belongs to nobody. And if the government reclaims that land, then there will be no dispute if Assets Group wanted to build on that land. In other words, they could build as many hotels as they want on land reclaimed from the sea. And there's this precedent for this. In other words, there are countries around the world that are doing this, currently actively doing this. Places like Singapore and the United Arab Emirates and Dubai, Nigeria. Remember, Nigeria's capital, Lagos, is built on a delta at the mouth of a river, and they're reclaiming land to build high-rise apartments and housing developments and so on. So this is not unprecedented. The point is that this is something that most progressive countries are doing. And so when I suggest that the government of Guyana could use that as a solution instead of giving away or selling out disputed land, it is in fact quite viable, and it serves the purpose of uh, shoring up our sea defenses. Because if you build up, let's say you build up land a mile out into the sea, and you put the seawall out there a further mile out, then there's that much more buffer. There's a buffer zone that you have against the sea in the event of inevitable sea level rise. But that's what's happening here, guys. That's what's happening in this neck of the woods. Carifesta Avenue is now being widened, and the Assets Group is building the Hilton Hotel, but it has been delayed because they have to resolve. There's an ambulance coming down the road. There's another ambulance. There's a hospital nearby. I think it's St. Joseph's Mercy Hospital. A couple of hospitals, so I think Georgian Hospital is not too far away. But yes, guys, that's what's happening in this neck of the woods. On Carifesta Avenue, they've actually made a lot of progress. In fact, since the last time you were here, they've built this drain and covered it, so you now have a covered drain, and they've also widened the road. In fact, started the process of widening the road, so the shoulder of the road here is wider. But that's what's up, guys. That's what's happening in this neck of the woods. If you want to see more content like this, this is a continuation of construction here. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening in the fastest growing country in the world, Guyana. Later. That's looking north. That's looking south along Camp Street. And this is Camp Street north towards the Atlantic Ocean. And that's the police training school and housing for the police officers in Georgetown.